Greetings on the channel. In this video, I will continue the story about the amazing fate of the French sex symbol Brigitte Bardot. Enjoy watching and let's get started. Her mother dressed her in a blue dress with a lapel collar, white socks, and braided her hair. This is what Madame Bardot thought a girl from a decent family should look like when she was invited to a premiere at the theater. Brigitte was excited beyond measure, but her own appearance led her to despair. Some incredible dull modesty. Willy-nilly. Parents did not guess what Vadim and I are really connected, she would later write in her memoirs. A week and a half Brigitte spent on her knees. She begged her father to allow her to meet with Vadim. And he finally relented, but put two conditions. First, dating is possible only in the presence of strangers, and secondly, until 18 years old, and the speech cannot go about marriage. In fact, Brigitte's parents secretly hoped that this bliss will pass by itself. A young man from the bohemian environment, with unclear prospects and unstable earnings. Why would he be a girl who can make a successful party? Long and unsuccessful attempts to introduce Brigitte to the son of the best friend and nephew of Count B began. For outings to restaurants or movies, the mother allowed her daughter to wear something from her closet and even gave her stockings. Brigitte was particularly jubilant about this. It was a sign of growing up, at last. At the same time, she had to be back at midnight sharp like Cinderella. Not a minute later. When Brigitte had once arrived at 1:10, her father had easily thrown her over his knee and spanked her right in front of her beau. The girl's lips trembled with resentment. At 16, such humiliation. Relationships in the family were already difficult, and then this. Her parents were pushing her away with all their might, ruining the world she loved. When her grandmother, the closest thing to Brigitte, died, her mother and father promptly threw out of her household furniture, silk lampshades embroidered with pearls, marble tables. All this was replaced by soulless new plastic, and the beautiful estate in Louveciennes lost its charm. Mother feared thieves and constantly closed the windows and shutters, so that the house was unbearably hot and dark, like a cellar. Then I loved to open the windows wide all my life, Brigitte said. She reached out only to Vadim, only he took her seriously and was touchingly gentle with her. And Brigitte led a double life. For parents, she was a modest willy-nilly, drank tea with a beau in the living room, walked with him under the windows of the apartment. But the real meetings took place in very different places. Would know my mom and dad, on what tricks we went to at least a minute to be together, admitted Brigitte. And when Vadim invited her to the theater premiere, her mother tried to make her daughter look the most unrepresentable way, like a schoolgirl. How sad it was, Brigitte recalled. Enter the temple of beauty in socks and starched collar. After the premiere was dinner, at the head of the table sat Madame Simone Bardot, the director of the theater. Everyone looked at me and wondered, where did this gray mouse come from? Madame Bardot, wearing a huge hat, decided to play a joke on Brigitte. You are so charming, my lovely, she murmured. But Vadim is next to you. Are you still an unplucked flower? Not any more, madam, replied Brigitte with a ringing voice. And you. Looking at the laughter of all the guests at the table, Brigitte felt that her cheeks were glowing. But she had won. The little girl in socks was no longer to be laughed at. Vadim's insistence, the way Brigitte clung to him, made Monsieur and Madame Bardot frown. This Russian, because his name was Roger Vadim nephews, did not disappear from the horizon of their daughter. In the summer of 1951, they offered Brigitte to go on a sea cruise, but not only to divorce, but also to perform in the play, which put a friend of the family. For the trip, Brigitte could earn 50,000 francs, a small amount of money at the time, but fully belonged to her. 3 weeks flew by in a flash. Brigitte danced, sang, played different roles, but returning, the first thing, ran to Vadim. At that time, the magazine Elle offered Brigitte again to pose for the cover. You do not need to crack the last name Bardot, firmly said the father. Take another one, Muscle, your mother's maiden name. Signing the papers as Brigitte Musel, at the magazine's release the girl aghast, Brigitte Bardot. That's what it said on the glossy pages. Waving her hand, she made no further attempts to change her surname. She was invited to appear in a movie again, and again for a tiny scene. Brigitte appeared on the screen for only 30 seconds, and as her mother watched the movie in the theater, she sneezed loudly at the most important moment, and missed her daughter's exit. She had to stay for one more session to see Brigitte. And in the evening, she called the doctor. The girl literally vomited outside. After examining Brigitte, the gray-haired healer advised her to rest and just wait it out. A little poisoning, nothing more, he said. The young actress looked at him with round eyes of amazement. She knew perfectly well what was happening to her, and the stale fish had nothing to do with it. So she had to be cunning. Brigitte begged her parents to let her go to Megève to rest, and in fact, she went to Switzerland one day. In France in the 1950s, not all procedures were allowed, but in the neighboring country, quite. Become a mother at 17, Brigitte did not plan to become a mother. Career ballerina, which she dreamed of, was on the back burner. Her parents offered to pass the exams and study further, but Brigitte's C's did not leave any hope of receiving a diploma. In addition, one after another fell short movie roles, continued and filming in magazines. Money Brigitte neatly stacked on the account. She was panic-stricken fear of being without funds. Vadim got a job as a correspondent in Paris Match, and the cherished hour when they could get married approaching. And again parents set a condition. They will accept in the family only a good Catholic. So Vadim had to hastily study the catechism to lead Brigitte to the altar in December 1952. Wedding dress for Brigitte. White, very simple, and yet elegant. Sued by a friend of his mother. The press wrote about this event. Many admired the beauty of young Brigitte, and she just glowed with happiness. At last, the period of modest willy-nilly came to an end. Now they can live without hiding from anyone in the apartment given by her parents. This new chapter of her life Brigitte Bardot began, believing only in the best. And how it turned out in reality I will tell you in the next video. Subscribe to the channel and see you in new videos.